Hello everyone, thank you guys for tuning into this video. In today's video we are going to talk about Square Enix as a whole and everything that's been going on and some of my personal thoughts on the matter. So we have a bit to unpack here. First things first, as of recently, 3D investment partners have purchased more shares of Square Enix. They are currently the second largest shareholder of Square Enix. They are a Singapore-based active investment firm, and essentially their idea is to buy as many shares as they possibly can, and the idea behind that is to push for changes, and obviously these changes boost shareholder value. With that being said, activist investor pressure can influence decisions on corporate strategy. Essentially, it's not about game quality directly, but more so about business performance and returns, and that is what can impact the broader company direction. That's with like cost cutting measures, that could be how they streamline development for good or bad reasons, AI use, so on and so forth. Churning out more mobile games for better and faster returns and easier development times. There's a lot that's involved with that. But the thing is, Fukushima is still currently the largest shareholder, and I believe some of his direct family has shares within the company as well. So there is still a presence in there that can really, it's the final say in what happens with this. So nothing crazy is going to happen with Square Enix. I think a lot of people are doing the internet thing and taking it and running it into all these different directions. Nothing majorly drastic is happening within Square Enix. It does shed some light on some things, and I think it's just bringing things out in the open so people can see a little more behind the scenes and what's going on. And obviously that raises concern for the direction of the company, and discussion comes in the mix and everyone has their opinion. But recently, 3D investment partners had a full-on presentation that was over 100 pages of essentially their breakdown of the company, some ideas, game performances, budgets, this, that, and the fourth. None of it is official. It is just based off their estimations. It's not a bad thing to take a look at. I'm not going to talk about it too much. If you want to take a look at it, you definitely can. It's out there. It's available. The only one thing I will say is they did bring up Capcom a lot in that, and how Square Enix can essentially replicate what Capcom has been doing, and everybody has been saying that for years. That is not anything new. Capcom just has a very good streamlined approach, but the only thing is Capcom is not making large JRPGs, especially when it comes to the Resident Evil franchise. These are linear survival action games that definitely do not cost as much or aren't as intricate as, say, a Final Fantasy. Yes, they do have Monster Hunter. Yes, they do. They've recently released Dragon's Dogma. Obviously, those were in development for quite some time. So, yes, can Square Enix replicate what Capcom is doing? 110%. Does Square Enix have IP like Capcom? No, they do not. The first thing I want to talk about is transparency. I think Square Enix does not do a good job at being transparent with consumers and fans and their entire audience. Like, they will kind of let rumors and speculation, whatever narrative the internet creates, Square is okay with kind of just letting that be. There's only been a few times where they've come out and say, hey, that is not the case, or whatever it may be. Which it's not bad publicity for Square Enix to say, this is this game, this is how it's performing. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's the fact that they don't say anything almost makes it worse. And because people will run with a narrative, they'll just believe that, right? So we can use Final Fantasy 16 for an example. Good one. We know that it shipped and sold digitally 3 million copies within its first week. Now, here's what we know. We know that those digital copies are copies sold. We know copies shipped are copies shipped to retailers. Then retailers will then sell those copies and then get more copies in, right? It is very unlikely, very, very, very unlikely that with the Xbox release and the PC release, that Final Fantasy 16 is under 4 million copies. Incredibly unlikely. I don't think it's that much more. Maybe 4 to 5 million. Maybe even 5 to 6 million. But it's definitely not 3.5 million, 3.23 million. It is certainly sold through its initial shipment for PS5 alone. Probably hasn't done too well on Xbox and PC. I think it's done okay. But Square Enix is not really going to update us on that or give any more information. So the narrative will always be that Final Fantasy has sold 3 million copies or 3.5, whatever it may be, right? And that's not necessarily a good thing nowadays when you have social media kind of doing its thing and word of mouth is so huge where people are going to take that and run with it. And that could be a bad thing. People could look at that and say, oh my gosh, no one is buying this game. Why should I, right? There's nothing wrong with Square Enix to just shed some light on that. Something is better than nothing. I think they would benefit tremendously from being transparent with these numbers. Square Enix also needs to do a better job at streamlining game announcements, development, how that's handled, the structure of it all, because it's very much up in the air, right? Like, let's just use Kingdom Hearts 4. That was announced such a long time ago, and I understand games, we're in the era of game development can take a while, right? But why would you announce Kingdom Hearts 4 years ago and absolutely nothing is going on with the game that we know of? What is the point of that? All that does at this day and age is just you get that initial hype of, yeah, this is awesome. And then people wait and wait and wait and wait and wait and nothing. And then it gets to the point of some people are just disappointed because they're continuously waiting on this thing that they may or may not see. Why announce a game so early? It serves zero purpose. I think a lot of publishers are seeing a tremendous benefit from announcing a game and then that game coming out within 6 months to a year. Now, I know there's always things internally that happen. There's development woes and things like that, which I totally get. But from what we saw with Kingdom Hearts 4 and then the images, those screenshots they showed us a few years ago, it doesn't seem like much. Like, those screenshots looked very much like, hey, we are still getting into the weeds of this, which I'm not really sure what the point of that is. I think we're well past that. And I'm almost positive Square Enix has said in the past that they don't want to do that anymore. So I really don't know what the train of thought was on that, and definitely shouldn't be something that they continue to do. Square Enix also does not have a consistent roadmap of releases for their major IP. And I know we talked earlier about these JRPGs being pretty intricate, pretty big games. They take a long time, but if we want to refer to Capcom and some other publishers, they'll have these major IPs kind of on a schedule, right? So 1 year you'll get this, the next year you'll get that, 2 years you'll get this. With Square, it's like the only thing that's been pretty consistent for them is the Final Fantasy VII Remake Trilogy. Part 3 of that seems to be like it's on the way, and I think that's largely due to the fact of the team that's working on it is consistent and they know what they want to make and they're getting that done. Whereas mainline Final Fantasy games are so much up in the air. It's all dependent on what the director wants, the vision of that. There's really not a lot of consistency within the Final Fantasy series itself because every team that takes it on has a new idea, which is fine, but you really need to get some consistency in there so people know what to expect and you don't have this seesaw of games that, oh, well, I really enjoyed 12. I hated 13. I really enjoyed 4. Didn't bother with 5. I really enjoyed 7, but could not stand 8. It's so much like, you have this group of 10 million people and 6 million will play 7, 4 million will play 8, 9 million will play 10. Like, it's just like they need some consistency. So you can have themes, you can have ideas, you can have a lot of really integrated systems that are within each game and just build upon that, right? It doesn't need to be rapidly different every single time. You only have such a core fan base that sticks with the series with each game. And then especially if you're trying to get newcomers, could you imagine playing Final Fantasy 15 and you're like, oh, this open world game that's got a massive world, all these side quests that I can do, and then right after that you jump into Final Fantasy 7 Remake, which is a bit linear and it's a remake of Final Fantasy 7, and then right after that you jump into Final Fantasy 16, which is more of a character action driven game that is remotely different. Like, I could, even me being a humongous fan, I can totally understand someone saying, oh yeah, no, like I liked 15 and what that was doing. I tried 7. I just didn't get into 16. Look at it as a Resident Evil fan. I know we can't use the games one-to-one, but 9 times out of 10, you're going to talk to someone who played Resident Evil 2 Remake. They played Resident Evil 3 Remake. They played Resident Evil 4 Remake. They played Resident Evil 7. They played Resident Evil 8. They can't wait for Resident Evil 9. Because Capcom has that consistency with each release. Consumers know what to expect, and Capcom evolves that process every time. It's still familiar, but it's also new. So consumers are interested and very convinced with each game. Whereas with Square Enix, it is so much of this, well, this is what this game is because this is what I wanted to do, and that's fine, but you're going to have people who like it and you're going to have people who don't like it. And those people who don't like it they may or may not get the other game after that. So it's very, very, very interesting. I know I don't want to stomp on creativity, but they definitely need to get some consistency within this series. Build upon something that works. Lastly, and this video has been kind of just me rambling on per usual, not scripted, completely off the cuff, just thoughts that I have about the situation now. Square Enix really needs to get their IP in line and have games from their major IP or even older IPs and just do something with them, right? Like, where is a new Nier? Nier Automata came out in 2017. The game sold 10 million copies since then. It is a success. People like it. Like, is nothing going on with that? I cannot understand why. Like, I don't get it. And in the meantime, we've had all these, AA releases from them, Diofield Chronicles, you name it. I get it, right? There's a new Valkyrie Elysium game, and sure, they're all not the greatest things in the world, but I feel like resources that were spent on those games should have been spent elsewhere, because you have consumers who are very weary on the brand. If you're bringing out multiple new IP, trying new games, it's going to be really difficult to get the consumers to purchase these games if they're just cautious on the brand. You need to build consistency. You need to have a lot of top tier titles that have great word of mouth. And if you venture off and do something else with a brand new IP, then consumers are, yeah, sure, they're more likely to jump on it because they trust the brand and they know that quality is there. If you're releasing very so-so titles and then in your flagship IP, and then you release a new IP, it's very unlikely consumers are going to jump on that, even if it's a good new IP. I thought Diofield Chronicles was okay. It wasn't the greatest thing in the world, but I thought it was okay, and that game did terrible. Like, very bad for Square Enix. Then you have the HD 2D games, which, in my personal opinion, I think those are great. I really think those are perfect stopgap games for Square Enix to continue releasing. They're all very, very gorgeous to look at. They're all fun. Octopath Traveler 0 is the most recent release within that, and I cannot wait to get into that. It looks really fun. I'm hearing phenomenal things about that. So that should definitely be something that they do. I think if they're investing into any other new IP or anything like that, I think that should stop. I think they need to focus on their core major intellectual properties here. Make them as great as they can be, especially with delays. When you have delays like this, the expectations just rise and rise and rise and rise. You're not doing yourself any justice with letting people know what's going on with that. They really need to get consumers and fans to trust in the brand more, and they're really not doing much about that. I understand that they're also kind of going through that 3-year reboot plan that they talked about, which is understandable. So we may have to wait a little bit before we see anything, which I also get. But in the meantime, they're not really doing anything to help themselves. We do have some games that are coming out that are pretty big. I'm very much looking forward to the Dragon Quest remake that is coming out early 2026 in February. I love all the Dragon Quest HD 2D remakes they've done with Dragon Quest 1 through 3. That has been great. Rebirth was phenomenal, right? And I know we talk about the exclusive thing a lot. Games shouldn't be on one platform. That I totally understand for Square Enix. They definitely need to have all of their IP release on every platform they possibly can. We've got Remake coming to Switch 2 and Xbox in January, so that is also something to look forward to. But yeah, Square Enix is one of my favorite publishers. They're involved with a lot of the IP that I truly hold dear to my heart, and I really just want to see them do good. I think they definitely can. I think they've captured my imagination so much throughout the years, and when I'm playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, you really feel that old Square in there, and you're just like, wow, this is just magical, right? And I know they can still do that. So, yeah, this is just my off-the-cuff thoughts of the situation and what I think Square Enix should do. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the future. Thank you guys so much. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below.